How often have I said to you that when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth? These words were spoken by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's character, Sherlock Holmes. This is a trope that has been repeated many times because it rings so very true. This is also the method we will be using in this documentary. We will attempt to rule out at least one cause using the elimination method. As we go about our daily lives, we tend to get caught up in the hustle and bustle of living. In today's society, especially, we take so many things for granted. Things like having clean water, having air to breathe, or even the fact that whatever happened in the past is set in stone and cannot be changed. One of these aforementioned things, however, is no longer something we can take for granted. The past is no longer set in stone. Before you hit the stop button, just hear me out. This started coming to light in 2010, with many people remembering Nelson Mandela's death in the late 1980s. He didn't die until 2013, according to what history records now. It has subsequently been followed by a large multitude of things that have seemed to change to a large group of people. This has been dubbed the Mandela effect. The Mandela effect, also referred to as the ME, which is what we will reference it as from here on, is where the large group of people share any memory with specific yet distinct details that do not match reality. In this mini documentary, and through the power of deduction, we're going to see what we can and cannot eliminate from the equation. By our definition, the Mandela effect comes down to having one of two overall causes. It is either being caused by faulty memory, or something has and is happening to reality itself. The mainstream media would have you believe that it is merely a case of faulty memory. As a matter of fact, when you search Wikipedia for the Mandela effect, the only thing that you are given is the page on false memory and false memory syndrome, which we will cover shortly. Since this is what the mainstream claims is the cause, let's look into it. So here we have a memory map. And the first thing on our memory map, as well as the first thing that the mainstream media and mainstream scientists and psychologists tried to claim was the cause of the ME, is confabulation. So let's look at its definition. Confabulation is defined as a memory error or the production of fabricated, distorted, or misinterpreted memories about oneself or the world, without the conscious intention to deceive. People who confabulate present incorrect memories ranging from subtle alterations to bizarre fabrications, and are generally very confident about their recollections, despite contradictory evidence. At this point, you are probably thinking, well, case closed. That explains everything. And you would not be alone. The mainstream used this quite a bit to beat over the heads of those that see the Mandela effect. However, if you think this solves it, then you would be very, Very wrong, my friend. You see, what they gave us in the beginning was only a half definition. The rest of the definition states that most known cases of confabulation are symptomatic of brain damage or dementias, such as aneurysms, Alzheimer's disease, and Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome, a common manifestation of thiamine deficiency caused by alcoholism. Additionally, confabulation often occurs in people who are suffering from anticholinergic toxidrome when interrogated about bizarre or irrational behaviour. So unless an entire group of people worldwide just suddenly acquired these aforementioned syndromes all at once, or we all became alcoholics, which most of us in the community are far from being, then I would safely say that we can rule this one out. Next up on the memory map, we have false memory and false memory syndrome. When you go to Wikipedia and you type in the Mandela effect, this is the information that you will now find there, starting with false memory. This is defined as an apparent recollection of an event that did not actually occur, especially one of childhood abuse arising from suggestions during psychotherapy. First, we aren't dealing with anything of that nature. Second, it did say most of the time, not all. But my biggest argument against this is that people carry these different memories are from all walks of life and all parts of the world, and most bizarrely of all, they share the exact same details in their memories, with little to no variance at all. This is merely a case of simple false memory, and one would expect a wide range of variance among those involved, especially considering none of them have met each other beforehand. However, that is not what we see with this phenomenon. Along with this, on Wikipedia we also get the false memory syndrome, which we have on screen now. The false memory syndrome recognizes false memories as a prevalent part of one's life in which it affects the person's mentality and day-to-day life. False memory syndrome differs from just simple false memory in that the syndrome is heavily influential in the orientation of a person's life, while false memory can occur without this significant effect. The syndrome takes effect because the person believes the influential memory to be true. However, its research is controversial, and the syndrome is excluded from identification as a mental disorder, and therefore excluded from the mental health books. That's the definition. But the truth is that they had to come up with a new psychological term to degenerate the ones who see the Mandela effect occurring. It also goes on to say that factors can influence false memory, including misinformation and misattribution of the original source of the information. Existing knowledge and other memories can also interfere with the formation of a new memory, causing the recollection of an event to be mistaken or entirely false. Now, this is the point at which I must make a concession. It is this author's opinion that some things that have been claimed to be effects could be attributed to original misinformation. In other words, if you see something for the first time and you simply read it wrong, then that becomes your initial anchor memory, which, by no fault of your own, is incorrect. With that said, I would say that this would account for maybe 5 to perhaps 7% of the overall amount of Mandela effects that are agreed upon by the large amount of people, which is far, far from 100%, and a small enough portion that, for being the main cause of the phenomenon, can safely be ruled out also. Next on our map is the Alice in Wonderland syndrome. This is perhaps the most ridiculous one that they have tried to pin on the Mandela effect community. Just in case you haven't guessed it, the Alice in Wonderland syndrome is where things look distorted in a person's vision. Defined as disorienting neuropsychological condition that affects perception. People may experience distortion in visual perception, such as micropsia, objects appearing small. Macropsia, objects appearing large. Pelopsia, objects appearing to be closer than they are. And teleopsia, objects appearing to be further away than they are. Size distortions may occur in other sensory modalities as well. This clearly has nothing to do with memory and reality actually being different. Therefore, this is definitively ruled out. Next up is misremembering. I think we have actually covered this quite sufficiently so far. I would like to reiterate, however, that sometimes we can plainly be mistaken about things or gain an incorrect memory accidentally. This, as stated before, would most likely only account for 5 to 7% of all Mandela effects. With that said, and the case that has been made so far, I would say that as an overall cause, simple misremembering can most definitely be ruled out. We have one more item on our map to cover, and that is suggestibility. Suggestibility is defined as the quality of being inclined to accept and act on the suggestion of others, where false but plausible information is given, and one fills in the gaps in a certain memories with false information when recalling a scenario or event. In this author's opinion, this is how some false Mandela effects do get mixed into the fray. You see, as stated earlier, the people who experience this phenomenon come from all sides and walks of life, as well as different personality types. Some people are very easily influenced by others. Thus, once again, only accounts for perhaps 3 to 4% of what is occurring overall. Which is why we can also without a shadow of a doubt, rule this out for being the overall cause of the Mandela effect. We started this documentary with a quote by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. As you may also remember, we started off with only two options. By the definition of the Mandela effect, this can either be being caused by memory issues or something happening to reality. We have been able to sufficiently rule out memory. No matter how improbable, this leaves us with only one other option, and that is that there is something seriously wrong happening to our reality. This is your first time researching the Mandela effect. Please look into the wide variety of topics that it has touched so far. If you are a naysayer or believe that this is nothing but a memory issue, then I hope that this short documentary was at least able to open your mind to the possibilities that could, and very well do, exist. Thank you.